I want to quickly preface this video by saying a few things. One, it's obviously a very lengthy video. I go in depth into a few different things. If you want a clarification on any specific thing, there's timestamps in the description, so feel free to jump around. If you want something a little more detailed and thoroughly explained, feel free to do so. With that being said, there's massive spoilers for Black Myth Wukong in this video, especially Chapter 1, bosses. Jinchi himself is a hidden boss, their powers, their meanings, and the positions in terms of Journey to the West and the game itself. So if you don't want any spoilers, then this is your only warning. With that being said, enjoy. With empty hands he preached, yet gold was his quest. He left no wealth, just doctrines to attest. A life of greed, his doom was sealed tight. If deeds were weighed, would he still face his plight? That is the beginning entry here within the journey of Black Myth Wukong, discussing the fates of none other than Elder Jinchi, a secret boss and powerful yaoguai. With this game being heavily inspired by the novel Journey to the West, today I wanted to explore the lore and mythology behind this boss, the role he played in Journey to the West and how this translates into the game, the powers we see him have and how they have a bigger story to tell in not only the way he lived, but his ultimate demise, his connections to other bosses, and how the developers over at Game Science cleverly adopted many figures within the 16th century novel to fit within their game. Now the first chapter here within Wukong is a story detailing the Destined One finding the first relic of Wukong's that has long been lost since the great sage's demise. This prompts the Destined One to begin by heading to Black Wind Mountain, the location of Guanyin Temple. Black Myth Wukong takes place after the events of Journey to the West, so as the Destined One makes his way along the mountain, the aftermath of the Monkey King is still felt here. Remarks of the monkey returning or references to a great fire that claimed the temple are all because those are the events within Journey to the West. Soon Wukong, while traveling with the Tang monk, ventured through here with some details of their journey being shared within the game's journal passages. Their time visiting Guanyin Temple is described as such. After 2 months of traveling, the Tang monk noticed some towers and halls nestled deep within the mountain folds. The Tang monk, dedicated as he was, decided to head through the gate, and once inside the great main hall, he was pleased to find the name of the place was Guanyin Temple. The Tang monk was overjoyed, while soon Wukong, who was traveling with his master, warned him that this temple was not a good place. It was best that they leave soon. Tang monk, however, would choose to ignore Wukong's warning and would continue to kneel before every golden statue in the temple, and he would begin to pray at them. Impatient with the Tang monk's attitude, Wukong proceeded to incessantly strike a nearby bell. This startled all the monks within the temple, prompting them to pour into the main hall in an effort to locate the source of this constant ringing. All the monks would greet Tang monk, while soon Wukong would use his see-through eyes to look around. He'd begin to laugh and mock the monks for their appearance of being sickly and weak. Perhaps they lost their sense of devotion. This would prompt Tang monk to snap at Wukong. He did not see what Wukong did. He saw every monk that approached him was wearing brand new kasayas. They were all tall, with strong, sturdy bodies. Wukong was just being insolent and speaking nonsense. Out of all the monks that appeared before Tang monk and Wukong, there was however 2 small monks that chose to stay hidden within the crowd. They dared not reveal themselves. Elder Jinchi would appear and invite Tang monk and Wukong to the back chamber of the temple to enjoy some tea. It's while Tang monk and Elder Jinchi exchanged pleasantries, these 2 hidden monks finally grabbed Wukong's attention. While Elder Jinchi and Tang monk chatted, Jinchi would reveal he's 270 years old. This would cause Wukong to scoff at him and question why he can smell yaoguai here within this temple. Jinchi would ignore Wukong's question, while the Tang monk was quick to apologize, saying his disciple can be unruly at times and to not take any offense to Wukong's mannerisms. At this moment, a small monk would begin to pour out fragrant tea for all of them. The tea was carried in one of the most extravagant vessels anyone has ever seen, but Wukong's attention was fixed squarely on the monk. He stared at him, and he would ask, "Where are you from, little monk?" In response, the monk would swiftly set down the tea and hide behind Elder Jinchi, to which Wukong would point at him and exclaim, "This one has a furry face and a strange head. He's a bit scary." Tang monk would respond by further reprimanding Sun Wukong. and telling him to mind his words. Do not offend people with his brashness. This little monk Wukong was referring to could quite possibly be referring to the yaoguai Guangzhi. Guangzhi is present in both Journey to the West and Black Myth Wukong. He's a small side boss here within the game, and his story appears to be somewhat slightly varied from the book to the game. In the book, Guangzhi was one of the two closest monks to Elder Jinchi. The other was Guanmou, who's also a side boss here within the game. The two of them would encourage Elder Jinchi's greed and would directly contribute to the fire that burned Guanyin Temple down. We'll focus more on Jinchi and the two monks in just a second. First, I wanted to highlight how this whole story basically shows Wukong from the beginning distrusted this entire place. He knew the monks were corrupt. Following a leader such as Jinchi, who was only driven by his own personal greed, would only lead to everyone's detriment here. Wukong saw what the Tang monk could not, and when his master refused to leave, only entertaining his corrupted hosts more, unable to see through their facade, the great Monkey King would instead decide to goad his hosts into revealing themselves. At one point, Elder Jinchi would ask the Tang monk if he has any treasures. As a noble hailing from the emperor's capital, surely he has something he could bless the elder with. Tang monk would repeatedly decline having anything of value that could interest Jinchi, and after repeated attempts, Wukong would burst out laughing and point out the Golden Kasaya he has. Why not allow Jinchi a glimpse at the great gift bestowed upon him by Buddha? Now, for simplicity's sake, the Golden Kasaya he refers to is actually shown in the end cutscene of this chapter. For simplicity's sake, a Kasaya itself is a Buddhist cloak worn by monks as a way to symbolize forsaking the material world. Money, power, lust, so on. The Golden Kasaya, in a way, is a test by Buddha, who gifted this Kasaya to Tang monk. It was also a sign of Buddha's favor. It was adorned with precious gems and relics that granted its wearer succor and protection. When Elder Jinchi is presented with this great Golden Kasaya, his spirit is touched by it. He kneels before the Tang monk and exclaims, "This humble monk is bereft of fortune. My eyes are dim and clouded. I cannot see it clearly. If you would be so kind and trusting, allow me to take it to the back chamber and study it carefully overnight. I shall return it to you tomorrow morning before your departure." Tang monk was startled at such a request, and he scolded Wukong's recklessness. Wukong only laughed more at his master. He encouraged the Tang monk to allow Jinchi to take the Kasaya for the night. Do not be worried. If anything happens, he will handle it. As Elder Jinchi retires to the back chamber with the Golden Kasaya, he begins to weep over it, wanting nothing more than for this elegant Kasaya to belong to him. This is where he's found by Guanzhi. Guanzhi is not only loyal to Elder Jinchi, but has a strong sense of obligation to him. Guanzhi's story is interesting in of itself. It's said in his youth he was not a monk or even human for that matter. He was a wolf Guai by nature, but he yearned for nothing more than to be human. He would often take the form of a young boy and would attempt to play with the children in a nearby town. But they would all run away at the very sight of him because, despite his best efforts to appear human, the children saw right through his facade. He might have the appearance of a person, but he lacked the mannerisms and subtleties of humanity. After consulting with other yaoguais, the path to being accepted as human was clear to him. He had to live among people and learn from them how to act and carry himself just as they did. Guanzhi would go straight to his master and beg him to grant him this wish. His master was the old wolf Lingchutsa. Now, the old wolf is not in the game, but his replacement, the current Lingchutsa, is. They're two different wolves and entities. Nonetheless, the old Lingchutsa would grant Guanzhi's wish, and with his approval, old Lingchutsa's close friend, the black bear Guai, transformed the little pup into a little monk, and he sent him to study under Elder Jinchi, an old friend of Black Bear Guai's. At first, the other monks extremely disliked Guanzhi. They played tricks on him, and the little monk always fell for these pranks. He was slow, gullible, and naive to human games. Because of the other monks' unruly behavior towards the little monk and his slowness to learn their ways, Jinchi would give the little monk the name of Guanzhi, or the Great Wisdom, hoping he would grow clever and sharper to prevent further bullying. But it still took Jinchi a great deal of effort to help Guanzhi learn how to read, write, and gradually appear human. He would eventually achieve such a feat, but it was only after constant care and nurturing by Jinchi. Despite his struggles, Guanzhi was Jinchi's favorite, and that was a sore spot for the other monk Guangmou. Guangmou studied under Elder Jinchi just as Guanzhi did. How they both came under Jinchi couldn't have been any further from each other though. Where Guanzhi was sent by old Lin Chutse and Black Bear Guai as a way to fulfill his own personal desire to become human, Guangmou was sent to Elder Jinchi by the white-clad noble. The white-clad noble was afraid Guanzhi's help would put Lin Chutse and Black Bear Guai in a more favorable position with Elder Jinchi than him. So the white-clad noble decided to send Guangmou on his behalf. He would warn Guangmou before he left, though, to never fall behind in his monkhood, especially behind Guanzhi. But no matter how hard Guangmou tried, Elder Jinchi seemed to always favor and acknowledge Guanzhi over him. Guangmou would train harder, learn faster, and he was gifted in his own right, but it all seemed to be in vain. Eventually, this would all become too much for him. His sentence to monkhood felt more and more like a prison sentence, yearning for nothing more than to return to the mountains and embrace his true yaoguai form, unshackled by such trivial matters. Everything would fall apart the moment Jinchi set eyes on the Kasaya, though. Despite his discontent with his elder's love for Guanzhi and constantly being ignored himself, Guangmou was still a follower of Elder Jinchi to the fullest. His master's teachings stating, "You can be too extreme, too uncompromising, always leave some room, and some things unfinished." This was a motto he could recall some 500 years later after his master's death. But the day Jinchi saw that Golden Kasaya, his desire for it was so intense he forgot his own words. Guangmou could see Jinchi believed this Kasaya was a prize worth killing for. The monk in his heart had already given way to greed. Guanzhi, desperate to repay Elder Jinchi for all the good fortune he blessed him with, proposed a plan. Why not kill the Tan monk and his unruly monkey with swords and knives while they slept? Then he could take the Golden Kasaya for himself. This plan was music to Jinchi's ears. Guangmou, however, was taken back by the Elder Jinchi's greed. Upset with his hypocrisy and building off the reckless proposal of Guanzhi, Guangmou proposed burning down the building Tan monk and Myth Wukong was sleeping in. This would be a much easier task for them than sneaking in and slicing their throats while they slept. Jinchi was even more delighted at Guangmou's creativity. So much, in fact, for the first time, and for the last time, he openly acknowledged Guangmou's wit. The plan in motion, Guangmou prepared for tragedy to strike. He was aware doom was on the horizon. While Guanzhi headed over to the building, the Tan monk slept in to light it ablaze. Guangmou summoned a giant gust of wind. While doing so, he would take refuge in a bamboo grove just behind the mountains. A great fire broke out as anticipated, but it didn't kill Myth Wukong or Tan monk as expected. Wukong, suspicious of the monks from the moment he arrived, stood up late into the night, and when Guanzhi lit the fire, Wukong used a fireproof mantle to shield Tan monk from the fire while he slept, and then he would fan the rest of the flames back towards the temple. The fire would only grow in ferocity and scale, becoming unstoppable. The Black Bear Guai would come to the temple's rescue upon seeing the magnificent clouds of smoke and thunderous screams from the monks. In the commotion, the Black Bear Guai would catch a glimpse of the unguarded Golden Kasaya. Unable to control himself, he'd steal it and leave the monks to fend for themselves. Once morning struck, Wukong and the Tan monk demanded the monks return the Golden Kasaya. Unable to find it anywhere, seeing his temple burned to ashes with no sign of Guanzhi or Guangmou, both were presumed to be killed by the fire, Elder Jinchi was completely disgraced by his own greed, and so he would proceed to commit suicide by bashing his head up against a wall. Well, we'll cover Black Bear Guai in a much bigger video as there's a lot with him. For now, simplicity's sake, we're going to briefly cover his position and how this led into Elder Jinchi's torturous spirit. To briefly cover the events, Wukong would hunt down Black Bear Guai. He would eventually defeat him, resulting in the Black Bear pledging allegiance to Bodhisvara Guanyin. During his discipleship under her, he would ask her why Jinchi was obsessed with the Kasaya. To which she would respond, "Without such robes, how could anyone know he was a monk?" This is an exchange we can actually see in the end cutscene of this chapter. Many years later, Black Bear Guai would become an enemy of Wukong, placed as another deity to help the celestial court subdue the unruly monkey. When Wukong is eventually killed, Black Bear Guai is rewarded with his eyes. This is the first of Wukong's relics we obtain within the game. This reward had some negative consequences on the Black Bear. It caused him to revert to his old ways. He abandoned his discipleship under Guanyin and returned to the remains of Guanyin Temple in Blackwind Mountain. He had grand plans for the reconstruction of the Charred Temple and, with it, a powerful position atop this mountain where he aimed to be unchallenged by any and all yaoguai. He proceeded to replace all the charred scriptures and with it deployed chiefs all over the mountain. Some of these were meant to guard a very old ally, Elder Jinchi. Now I believe Elder Jinchi is in this state because of Black Bear Guai's attempts to revive him. In the journal entry of Blackwind King, who I firmly believe is the same person as Black Bear Guai, my reasoning is that Blackwind King does not actually exist within Journey to the West. In Journey to the West, there is a Blackwind demon whose true form is the Black Bear. The Black Wind Demon is capable of transforming into a man with his appearance described as a dark complexion armed with a black tassel spear. Blackwind King's appearance and weapon fits that very description. Not to mention his journal entry and Black Bear Guai's entry read very similar, and of course after defeating him he mentions meeting him at the top of the mountain's summit, where you fight the Black Bear Guai, which would thus be his true form. But upon Black Bear Guai's return to Black Mountain as the Blackwind King, he used a revival mantra learned by Bodhisvara Guanyin. He did so with the intention to resurrect the old Lenchutsa, who was killed by Sun Wukong. He would use it once more to bring back the life of an old monk he used to practice with. The soul of this monk is said to not have returned to the stitched corpse. Instead, this resurrection mantra resulted in the gold, copper, and silver coins the monk had buried in life fusing together, forming a maddened golem that wandered and disturbed the mountain relentlessly. Considering Elder Jinchi would fit the description of the old monk he had practiced with perfectly, as he was 270 years old when he passed away, and he learned how to get that old through methods the Black Bear Guai taught him. It would only fit the failed resurrection of Jinchi by the Black Bear is what we're left to deal with here. Locked away in another realm inside an ancient abandoned version of Guanyin Temple, only accessible by ringing 3 bells. The bells themselves are a callback to Sun Wukong ringing the bells incessantly the day he arrived in Guanyin Temple with his master, forcing the monks and Jinchi himself to see what the source of this noise was. Ringing the bells within the game, the keeper of Blackwind Mountain shares there's a great disturbance within the mountain. All the yaoguais are now aware of the Destined One's presence, whose very presence is enough to trigger fear and anger in many deities within this mountain. They remember him off of smell, looks, and actions. And then there's 2 of the 3 bells being guarded by the 2 monks that failed Elder Jinchi on that fateful night, Guanzhi and Guangmou, having survived fire that night. Guanzhi was forever ashamed of his actions that night. He felt responsible for the fates of Elder Jinchi, old Lenchutsa, and the Black Bear Guai. Guanzhi felt that he had utterly failed at being human. He would shed his monk robes, repents for his actions through Jinchi's teachings, and practice within the Great Mountains, forging a new weapon he named the Red Tides, after the great flames that claimed his home that fateful night. Guangmou became a Taoist master of poison magic and was placed at the 2nd bell, still disgusted at his former master's greed. The last bell was guarded by the ironclad noble. While he had no allegiance to Blackwind King, there was no other as gifted in battle as the white-clad noble was, making him perfect to make sure these 3 bells were kept far away from anyone. Whether if Jinchi's lingering spirit was due to his covetous, shameful death or a mishap of failed revival mantra at the hands of the Blackwind King, what is less mysterious is that he is stuck, eternally looking for that last Golden Kasaya that got away from him. Now when you go to fight Elder Jinchi, he claims he cannot see you, perhaps a callback to him telling the Tan monk his vision is dim and cloudy. He cannot see clearly as a way to manipulate the Tan monk to leave the Kasaya with him. Elder Jinchi's powers also showcase his greed as well. The arena is filled with these lost spirits just roaming, carcasses or empty husks of people, possibly symbolizing the many souls Jinchi himself had led astray. During your fight with Jinchi, whenever he says, "I won't settle until I have that Kasaya, get it now," all of these husks begin to chase after you and explode.
Get it now!
Jinchi can also absorb all of their souls and throw a blast at you, or float with a golden hue surrounding him, at which time all of these husks would kneel before him, healing the Elder. It displays the power and the greed this man had during his life, willing to sacrifice anyone to get what he wanted, and when the time best suited him, play the part of the pure, pious monk. Interestingly as well, if you attack Elder Jinchi as Guanzhi, he says this. He will also ask if the Tan monk and his disciples have been burned. Unable to see, driven by his greedy nature, his restless spirit continues to chase after that Golden Kasaya. While he remembers his plan of burning the Tan monk in Sun Wukong, it appears he cannot recall him actually being killed as a result of his plan dramatically backfiring on him. As another Easter egg, when you defeat Elder Jinchi, you're awarded with the Fireproof Mantle, an artifact that helps tremendously with the Black Bear Guai fight, but it's the very item that caused the destruction of Guanyin Temple and the death of Elder Jinchi. Sun Wukong used that item to fan the flames back at the temple 500 years ago. It's quite ironic. The Elder was forced to guard the very thing that took his life and destroyed the place he devoted his entire life to.